What would you do if grocery store shelves emptied out today? You can't survive on rice and beans alone. You need nutrient-dense foods in order to thrive. In today's video, I will share with you my top 10 survival crops, as well as a secret that most gardeners have overlooked. Hey Provident Gardeners, I'm Kylene and welcome to 30 Days of Preparedness. Huge shout out to Michelle at Big Valley Living for inviting us to participate in this collaboration. Please click the card in the corner and you will have a link to the playlist so that you can follow all of these great videos that are being produced this month to help you become better prepared in these crazy times before the end of this month. So today's video, we're going to talk about my 10 favorite survival crops. Now, in order for it to have made my list, number one, it has to do very well in my particular growing zone, which is zone 6. So you may need to adapt this a little bit for you. The second thing is that I have to have enough water to successfully grow this crop. I live in the desert, and so water is pretty precious. I would not grow corn as a survival crop, even though I grow corn regularly, but because it takes up so much space in my garden and so much water, if I were just in survival mode, I wouldn't be growing that, but it might be right for you. The third is that it has to be proven in my garden. An example for me is zucchini. Man, those squash bugs and I do not have a good relationship. And although I continually try and I have some success, if I were counting on that zucchini to live, I wouldn't grow it. Now, Amanda grows great zucchini and she does a better job of staying on top of those squash bugs. So she shares her zucchini with me. And that might be a survival crop for her. But for me, I would plant something else that is proven to work in my garden successfully in that space. Number 4 is it has to be something that I enjoy eating, especially when times are hard. Why would I plant something I don't like when I could plant something that I thoroughly enjoy eating? Those are my 4 criteria that a plant needs to meet in order to make it into my survival garden. Now, before I get into those 10 annual crops, I want to mention my perennials because my perennials are actually more important to me than my annual crops, because the perennials are plants like fruit trees and berry bushes and grapevines, things that you plant once and they grow back year after year and they mature. So once that apple tree is mature, that needs a lot less water and it can produce even when the situation is harsher. I've got all my berries here, my raspberries and my blackberries. The only thing I need to do for them is prune them down. Well, okay, I give them water and love, but for the most part, they are really self-sufficient and they just very consistently produce. So think about adding perennials, and then let's talk now about my top 10 annuals that I would put in my survival garden. My number 1 pick for a survival crop are greens. And the reason why is because they are so nutrient dense. You can grow an amazing amount of food in such a small area, and they preserve really well just simply by drying, so you can eat them all winter long. My second favorite survival crop has to be beets and carrots. They are super easy to grow. At least the carrots are once you get them germinated. But we've got a couple tricks for that. They taste amazing, but you can also use the tops. It's not just the beet that is the prize. You can harvest greens from the beets super early and help to bridge that gap. They're good raw or in soups and cut up and cooked. Now, carrots are also amazing. We all love carrots, but did you know that you can eat the tops? Absolutely you can. And they'll add a really fun flavor to some different foods. So I would experiment with that. Now, one of the reasons why this is very high on my survival crop list is because what we do is we planted the beets and the carrots in these rows. And then in the fall, we take giant bags of leaves and we in black bags, right? Just the lawn bags, and we put them on top of it. And that's the way that we overwinter them. So we'll come and we'll peel that bag off in the middle of the snow and harvest beets or grapes so that we can eat fresh all winter long with very little work. It's a great tip. My third favorite survival crop are potatoes. because they're so easy to grow. These potatoes were actually just growing here in this compost pile, and they haven't matured. But all I did was put the peels, some thick peels to some potatoes in the compost pile, make sure that it was being watered, and they grow. If I leave one potato in the ground, it will grow for the next year. And so that makes it a really good survival crop just because it's so hardy. You cannot eat the top of the potatoes like this. This isn't going to be okay for you to eat. It's only the tubers that you can eat. But what a great fresh caloric addition to a limited food supply. My number 4 survival crop would be cherry tomatoes. They're so much more dependable than the whole tomatoes, and they just continue to produce throughout the season. I tend to find that I get cherry tomatoes a lot earlier and a lot later than I can have the regular full-size tomatoes. Survival crop number 5, green beans. These green beans I didn't even plant. My grandson had this garden bed last year and didn't clean it up before the winter. You know, he didn't put it to bed for the winter. And so the green beans just grew. I didn't even plant them. And now we're harvesting beans off of them. You can grow the green beans and you can eat them like this, or you can let them dry and you can use the beans that are inside similar to you would pinto beans or something like that. And the entire plant is edible. The most tender young leaves are the best ones to eat, and they're better cooked. You've got a tremendous amount of food in addition to the beans. Now, one of the other things I love about beans in my survival garden is that because beans fix nitrogen into the soil, they're a legume, that means that whenever I plant beans, I am actually increasing the fertility of the soil, and the other plants around it are going to thrive. Survival crop number 6, winter squash. Now there's winter squash, there's pumpkins, it's all in the same category. But one of the beautiful things about these is that they grow in this package that once you pick it, as long as you harden it off correctly and store it, it can store all throughout the winter in a cool place so that you can have fresh food all winter long. And one of the other things that you may not have known is that the leaves are actually edible too, just like the beans. Now with these leaves, these get kind of pokey and you definitely wouldn't want to be eating them raw. The leaves that I would harvest are these beautiful little tender ones. Most winter squash plants, the leaves are edible too. Can you see how there is much more food in your garden than you may have first supposed? Survival crop number 7, onions and garlic. Both of those are good survival crops because if you add them to your traditional beans and rice and basic food storage, it makes all the difference not only in flavor, but it's adding some nutrition that you were missing. Another secret about the onion that you might not realize is we're not just growing it for the bulb, but we are growing it for the onion leaves. Now you have to be careful about harvesting the leaves too much because that will prevent the onion bulb from growing really large. But this is all edible, and it has a much milder flavor. It's kind of really nice. You just chop it up. You can put it in salads, stir fries, or in soups, things like that. And you've got that wonderful onion flavor as well as the nutrition. Now let's talk for a minute about garlic, because when you're growing garlic, you know how it's got that scallion that develops, and you've got to cut that off so that the bulb, the energy will go to the bulb and the bulb will get bigger. But don't throw those scallions away. They are completely edible and they're delicious. They have a much milder flavor than your garlic bulbs, but so much of the food that you think isn't actually food, you can eat it and it tastes really good. Survival crop number 8 would be peas. And the reason why is because peas will grow so early in the spring and late into the fall when you don't have a lot of other productive stuff, but peas are super cold tolerant. Now the trick about peas that you might not know, I'm sure you know you can eat the pod and you can eat the peas that are in the pod, but the entire plant is edible. And actually it is one of the most delicious edible plants in your garden because it tastes like peas. And just like the ones that we talked about, you can eat it, chop it up, eat it raw in salads. You can saute it in your stir fries. You can add it to a soup. But if you remember the pea plants, which I don't have any growing right now because it's the wrong time of year, but you have all that amazing growth with the peas on it. why waste it? And a lot of times we don't understand this, because when you go to the market, do you ever buy pea leaves? And you only get the pea pods or the frozen peas. So that's one of the reasons why growing your own garden, it's an exciting adventure. There's so much more that you can eat that's incredibly nutritious for you that you might not think about. Survival crop number 9 is cabbage. And unfortunately, I don't have any to show you right now. It's a cool season crop and it stores really well. And remember, like with the other plants that we've talked about, sometimes we only focus on eating that head of cabbage, but all of the leaves are actually edible. So if you're in a hunger situation, you don't have to wait for that head to develop. You can pick at some of the other leaves around the cabbage and start eating those. You can eat it raw, you can eat it cooked, it stores really well, and there's a huge variety. So there's bound to be one that will grow in your area. And survival crop number 10 are peppers. And a lot of it is just because I love them. But when you're talking beans and rice, having some things to spice it up and add flavor, peppers are an incredible addition to almost any meal. And you can eat them raw, you can eat them cooked, they're just delicious. One of the other things that you should know is you can eat pepper leaves. So same thing, if you've got this big plant, not enough peppers, and you've got that hunger gap, you can eat pepper leaves. I would cook them first, personally, because I think that they taste better that way, but peppers, that's my number 10. So there you have it, my top 10 annual survival plants that I would grow if things got really hard and I had to make some choices. Now today I'm going to give you a little bonus. This is actually amaranth, and the reason why it's a bonus one is because it doesn't produce enough to really make a difference. But amaranth is a grain, right? And these plants, I planted them once a long time ago, and every year some of them just come back as weeds and I just let them grow. And because they do that, suddenly you've got this plant that is amazing. All of these leaves are edible. They taste better when they're small, but this produces that amaranth grain, which is a fantastic grain. And they look beautiful in my garden. So there you go. There's your bonus. Now I'd love to hear from you. What are your top 10 survival crops? Leave it in the comments. Make sure that you visit the 30 days of preparedness and see what else you can learn so that you can be more prepared for the challenges that are in our future. And as always, don't be afraid to get a little dirt under your fingernails and turn that dirt into dinner. Thanks for joining me in my garden.